Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Scott Garrett Show. I've done a lot of shows relating to relationships. This one is going to be a little different. This is, it is a relationship show, but this is a show, and I'm calling this show How to Manage Your Man. A lot of women out there, I sympathize with what you're going through, because a lot of us men, we aren't able to play the traditional roles that men of the past have played because we haven't been taught to play those roles. So a lot of times there's some confusion about the way things should happen. There's some confusions about desires, wants, and needs. And our desires, wants, and needs are sometimes tending to fall more on the female side than the male side. Now, what I'm going to hope to do in this show is to give you some helpful hints or maybe some tools that you can use to help manage your man so that you can have a successful relationship. What I did was I went out to people that I know who have successful relationships and successful marriages, and instead of talking to the men this time, I decided to talk to the ladies. The first thing they all did was laugh when I asked how do they manage their man. And they said things like, well, I don't manage him, and he's his own man. And I just laughed, because I know for a fact that my wife manages me. After 20 years, she has a good understanding of my needs, my wants, and how to get what she needs and what she wants out of our relationship. And she also realizes it's a two-way street. The biggest word that came up in most successful relationships was compromise. Compromise does not mean I'm never going to get my way and you're always going to get your way. That's not a compromise. A compromise is, in a relationship, a compromise is probably best described as figuring out what's important to your partner and what they value, and you finding a way to value that same thing. Let me give you an example. I grew up in a single-parent home, no brothers and no sisters. So for me, there was no real value put on big family gatherings and things like that. I was kind of used to being alone or not being around big family functions. Where my wife, she's from a larger family, so she valued all those family things. So initially in our relationship, the compromise was I gave her a certain amount of times in which I would do the family thing, because it was unnatural for me. It wasn't that I felt uncomfortable or unwelcome at any time. It was just unnatural for me. So I said 7 times. 7 times a year, I'll go to this function or that function. You choose the 7. I didn't need to choose the 7. I left it up to her. And that's what we did for a while. And then over time, I learned to value that family time the way she valued that same time. But that wasn't something that was natural for me. And she's done a lot of the same things for me. It's about valuing what's important to the other person, not what's important to you. And that's where the compromise comes in, and that's the give and take. The other thing that would help in the management of your man is understanding offsets. This is not playing the I did this, so now you owe me that game. That never works, and that doesn't work for anybody who wants to be in a successful relationship. What the offsets are is you figure out what the other person is good at in the relationship, and you let them do what they're good at. For instance, if your man is a better cook than you, then don't try to force your way into the kitchen. And I know women are saying, good, I don't want to force my way into the kitchen. But if he's a better cook than you, then you let him do the cooking. If he cleans the kitchen better than you, then you let him clean the kitchen. And if you clean the bedrooms better, then you clean the bedrooms. But it's all got to get done, and it's the teamwork that helps it get done. One of the real rough areas that you run into in relationship is child rearing. Some women feel that just because genetically they're a woman, it is their role to rear the children, while some men are much more patient and better at child rearing. And if you're in a relationship like that, then you let that man do what he's better at. You let him rear the children, and you sit back and you play a subordinate role when it comes to the raising of the children, and you let that man do the raising of the children. One of the real tough things for men is the managing of the money. Now, most men have been taught that you're supposed to manage the family budget and you're supposed to be the man. Know thyself, like Shakespeare said. If you know that you're horrible at managing money, why would you put your family at risk by trying to manage the money? You let your wife manage the money if she's better at managing the money. Because what I had to learn is, if I managed the money, even if we had the money, I still was not going to pay the bills on time. It just was not in me to get up and do what it took to get the bills out on time. So I learned to sit back and let my wife manage the money. And what it did was it lowered my stress level. Because if I'm managing the money, you're going to be getting calls from bill collectors. That's for sure. Whether I have the money or not. When she manages the money, there's no stress. There's no call from bill collectors. Everything's paid on time. Everything goes smoothly. So that's not something that I had to worry about. But if I would have been playing the gender roles, then I would have thought that, no, I've got to manage the money because I'm the man. Your money should come out into one pot anyway, and it should go out of one pot, so it doesn't matter who's managing it or who's making the most. It just shouldn't matter. If you are a family, it's the family's money, and it's the family's budget. Whoever is better at doing the budgeting and paying the bills, you let that person do it. There's a lot of trust that goes along with that because money is considered power. Now, a lot of people can't let go of the illusion of power that money gives you. And unless you're super rich, you really have no power because you're paying a bunch of bills just like everybody else. So there isn't any real power in it. It's just about trust. And it's an issue of trust. Now, if you are entrusted to balance the budget, pay the bills, and have the money in your care, then you can't go out and do a bunch of frivolous spending that would make your partner not trust you. Because men will feel disenfranchised very easy if they feel like there are things that they would like to buy that are within the budget that you know you can afford, and you're saying no to everything. Then that person starts to feel like you're disingenuous. And then when he feels like you're disingenuous, what he does is he does something to show you that I'm still a man. And it's probably going to be something stupid. Like going out to buy something that he really shouldn't buy and really doesn't want, but he's doing it to prove a point. Stay away from those types of things because men, our egos get bruised easily. And you don't even want to put yourself in a situation where he's starting to feel like he's coming to his mother to get money and things like that. So don't be disingenuous and he won't feel disenfranchised. One of the best things you can do as a woman for your man is create a reasonable timetable for things. Men, and when a man loves a woman, he wants you to have everything. He doesn't tell you he wants you to have everything because he doesn't want you to be disappointed if he can't get you everything, but he would love to have you have everything. So he'll go out of his way to do a bunch of things, and these are things that you may not even necessarily want or have been thinking of. But he's trying to let you know how much he cares. Instead of having him do something silly and spend $200 or $300 on roses and chocolates and things like that, you can just tell him how much you appreciate what he does for you. That goes a long way for a man because the word appreciate is much deeper for a man than the word love. Because appreciation is love in motion. And I love the things that you continue to do. And I wouldn't want to be with anybody else. That appreciation breeds trust and it breeds commitment in your man. And tell him you love what he does if you have kids. You love what he does for the kids. This is the type of encouragement that men really thrive on when they're getting this type of encouragement at home. And when you're making that home a peaceful place. When you're going into some new avenue in life, or you're trying to buy some new thing, give your man reasonable dates and times that you think that you should have those things. Dates and times that you think that he can meet. And he'll step up and he'll try to meet those dates and times. And if you're balancing your finances and everything is happening like it should in coordination, a lot of times you'll meet those goals. If you don't meet them, you'll be really close. The best thing that you can do is let your man pick the path, but you be the guide. Let him pick the direction, but you guide him through those directions. And a lot of times he may fight that at first, but we have a lot of insecurities, and that's the real reason why why we might fight you guiding us. But if you do it the right way, and you come from a position of love, you don't come from a position of power, you don't come from a position of authority, you come from a position of partnership, which is something that men understand naturally because we partner all the times in things. That's one of the reasons why you can't get him to stop hanging out with his friends, because that friendship and that partnership really breeds, and actually breeds a lot of good things that'll come out in your relationship if you allow this relationship with his friends to flourish also. But of course there's a limit to everything. But what there shouldn't be a limit to is what you're willing to do to make sure that you have a committed and loving partner. And part of that commitment and love will be you guiding him through a lot of the pitfalls that men face naturally, but are sometimes too afraid to ask for help from. Thank you.